Welcome to the next episode of Discipline, Desire, Dedication. My name is Dakota Lang, along co-host Garrett Cotten. Today we're going to give some tips and tricks of being on the doors as well as being a closer and going into the doors. But before we get in that, maybe we do how's your day going?
Yeah, pretty good. Started our day with breakfast, routine. Even at this level, we still got our routine.
I know. You usually get the same thing every time we go to gyms, and today you got something different. Why?
I think today I changed it up because I don't know. I woke up today and was like, I had that hunger again. Sometimes you'll wake up and it's like, all right, it's time to lock in. It's like I don't need to go get the big old Jim's breakfast. I don't need to go and just get too happy, I guess you could say. So I went a lighter breakfast. I think I go through phases where I'll wake up one day and I'm like, all right, it's game time, like lock back in. Last night, me and you talking about CrossFit and stuff like that makes me hungry to get back into it and stuff like that, like without missing. But today we have podcasts, so yeah. So I think that's where my different meal choice came from today.
CrossFit, and then also you're working on your back patio, getting a plunge, sauna.
Work is what it seems like, just busy.
Yeah. That's good. Well, let's jump right into it. So I know we wanted to really dive into some tips and tricks that me and you did as a knocker to help us, reach and hit our goals. To start off, I would just say when we kind of went over it in a previous podcast about, one of the clips actually, got a lot of attention is just like getting out the car, right? Your non-negotiable of getting out of the car. But let's backtrack all the way to heading to the meeting. Let's start it from the beginning of the day all the way throughout the day. What are some of the non-negotiables or tips and tricks that you did, just leaving your house, going to the meeting that helped you get prepared?
Well, I feel like in this industry especially, how you start your day kind of sets the tone for the day. So, I mean, we preach it every day about routine. So, I feel like on the best days, I talk about it all the time where successful people, they get confidence from accomplishing the small task that they say that they're going to do every day. And so for me as a knocker, that stuff used to be waking up at 5 a.m., going to the gym at 6, having breakfast made and being on my way to the office for like 8:30. I mean, like getting there as early as possible. So I would say before the meeting starts, to be very transparent, I had non-negotiables, and those non-negotiables were like 5 a.m. wake up. 5 a.m. it's non-negotiable. I got to get out of bed at 5 a.m. CrossFit 5 days a week. CrossFit being 6 a.m. So I got to be able to get up, get in the car, get dressed, drive 30 minutes because that was a 30-minute drive to get to the gym. And then I'd be home for usually about 7:30, and it would give me plenty enough time to shower, make breakfast, eat, and then hit the road. And I'm usually on the road by 8:15, 8:30, sometime like that. Meeting starts at 9. So routine, though, is all of that stuff is what I try to accomplish daily before the meeting even starts. And what that is it's allowing me to stack my wins before the day even begins, right? If you wait until you just show up to your shift, and that's when your job mentality comes in, but you show up to your shift at 9 o'clock to go work your day, you have no wins to start the day off. So whenever you go out to hood, it's you're in that lull phase of like, oh man, I got to go knock doors again. Oh, I got to go do this. And I think that routine before you even show up to work, I mean, the working drive it's in full gear. Like we are rolling by the time the meeting starts. And I think that's what helps me to get out on the doors and just make stuff happen.
Right.
So, but that's like my before the meeting stuff. I mean, there's not much more that I would add into
Well,
there.
I would say the biggest factor to that is because when we're traveling to these offices and we're preaching what you do outside of work is a reflection of how you're going to do inside of work. One thing that I've seen other people, they're like, oh man, well I got a routine, you know what I mean? I get up and make breakfast for my kid and bring him to school.
I guess that's a good point. The
I'm
routine, it can be a comfortable routine or an uncomfortable routine.
Exactly. So it's very important that it's an uncomfortable routine.
Yeah.
Because it has to challenge you in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
Getting up, cooking breakfast, and bringing your kid to school or whatever, taking your dog on a walk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
that's not exceptional. There's nothing great about.
Don't challenge you.
No, I mean that's expected. If it's kind of like we asked somebody the other day about like, what do you do for your business in this job? And they were like, I show up on time every day. Well, that's expected. That's not going anything above and beyond. So that's, I mean, and in this industry, we are the business. We are the sales. And so, if you're not valuing your business, it's just not going to grow.
Yeah. So making sure that, in a morning routine, you're always challenging yourself in some way, shape, or form, right? Another thing that you can always implement is because there's a lot of people that do like after work, and I don't mean to skip to the back half of the day, but they'll go listen to C-Rose in the evening time. I've seen people stay up till midnight breaking this stuff down. And I'm like, that's not productive.
No, at the end of the day, it's terrible.
Because your brain has already been through so much emotion, so much interaction that you just have to give yourself time to process it, right? Save that, get you some good quality sleep, get you some rest. That way you can wake up at your 5, 6 a.m., whatever your routine is, and then you can go down and break down those zeros from the yesterday to where when you get in the meeting, you are prepared, but it's fresh on your mind,
Yeah. Wait until the end of the day, I think, is so bad to work out, to review zeros, to do any types of training, because you're going to go to sleep and you have to wake up a new day the day after that. And all that time that you spent reviewing zeros, you only retained half of it.
Yep.
Whereas, like, if you start your day, on that topic, usually I'll listen to books on the way to work, right? Grant Cardone, I'm listening to Sell or Be Sold. What that's doing is starting my day off with the selling mindset. As soon as I get in my car, one of my non-negotiables, along with 5 a.m. workout, wake up, 6 a.m. CrossFit, one of my non-negotiables is I have to listen to a book or a podcast on my way to work. If I'm headed to the office or I'm headed to field, it's a book or a podcast only. And the reason for that is because it's challenging myself and it's getting my mindset prepared to take on the day rather than to go through a day of failure and be like, man, what could I have done different today? The reality is you're not changing what's already happened, so we need to be proactive, Same thing about like working out in the evening. If you work out in the evening, then it's a dread you get through all your stuff and you're so wore out, and that quality of workout wasn't nearly as good of a workout as if you would have started your day that way.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's super important to get that stuff done early, but that's kind of like my is your routine pre-work, is it pretty similar to mine?
Yeah, especially as a knocker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like I was saying in the last pod is, your schedules change as you progress through the company. So you have different times where you can do different things. But as a knocker and a closer, 100% is that I was never one that I didn't like breaking down zeros at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. I'm just like, because you're whooped, dude. If you're doing the job right, you know what I mean? And you're out there grinding.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is at the end of the day.
Yeah, you want to go get a good shower, right? Maybe brush up on something and then, get a good night's rest.
Yep.
So I think doing that in the morning is super crucial. That was something that I always did was, listen to books, especially on the way to the office. Sell or Be Sold is always an easy one just because Grant's motivating as well, you know what I mean? Just his energy, you know what I mean? It's just fire. But making sure that you do those small tasks to where, like you said, you can build up those little wins where you walk into the office and now you're naturally more confident.
Yeah.
But what I'll say is that it's easy to listen to those books 1 or 2 days a week, but the reason that it's so important that you do it every day is because it is challenging over a long period of time until you create that habit. I think they say you can't create a habit until 24 days in, I believe it is.
Yeah, something like that.
So creating that habit into your routine is crucial. But let's go into the meeting, right? So you're coming into the meeting. Well, let me go back to this because whenever you were the market owner over Denver, I was a knocker for the first, no, I was closing whenever. Yeah, I qualified closer whenever you became market owner because you were closer.
Yeah.
But even at that time, right, Kaleo was the market owner. Me and you used to meet him there. The same thing is treat it as if your own business, right?
Yep.
So if you're a knocker, don't wait until 9 o'clock or 9:30 to show up to the meeting, right? Get in there early, right? Meet the market owner there. Treat that as if you're the market owner.
Yeah, hold the market owner accountable.
Yeah.
All it does when somebody comes in as a new knocker and they're there early every single day, the market owner takes note of that. He may not comment on it all every day or something, but he's like, damn, that dude's here early. He beat me to the parking lot again today. Well, guess what? Now you're on his mind every day.
Yep.
Now you're holding the market owner to a higher standard. Now the standard in the room is built because somebody is brand new into the room and doing above and beyond.
And it's also going to make your market owner see the work you're putting in, and he's going to be more willing to train you. You know what I mean?
It gives you one-on-one time too as well. If you're the first person in the office,
Yeah.
you have to talk to the market owner. Y'all walk in as he's unlocking the door. You're in his head.
Yep.
But that's if you want to be able to progress and take that person's job. I say that loosely, take their job. But like that's the reality of door-to-door is you can sprint up until the point where Kalea was a market owner when I came in, and now we're the same position. So it can happen real fast.
Exactly.
But
let's go through the meeting. So, right, and also when you show up early, dude, one thing I always did is I was always getting in front of the mirrors. You know what I mean? Getting reps in. I wasn't just coming into the office early to sit in a chair and just sit there.
Yeah.
No, I'm freaking walking around with the script. I'm doing stuff, right? Getting ready for the day.
Yeah.
But let's go into the meeting, right? So you run everything, go through the meeting. First of all, like, this is so crucial is that when I walk into an office and I see knockers on the back row, it aggravates me.
Yeah.
I literally tell them, like, oh, no, we're not going to do that. Come on, get up in front of,
Yep.
If we have any empty seats on the front row, nobody should be on the back row. You know what I mean? Right? Get up in the front,
We don't want any flies on the wall. We want involvement.
Involvement, you know what I mean? Not looking on your phone, all that stuff should have been done. Whenever that meeting starts, you need to be engaged. Because if you're not, and it might be something that you've already learned that you're just refreshing your memory on, it seems redundant, but at the same time, like, that's how you get better.
Yeah, and it's not walking in there. That's a good point. Sometimes the market owners, I started here. The market owners should walk in. They should put something motivational on the YouTube or put something on their TV.
Podcast.
I always talk about put DDD on the podcast. And I do that so that whenever people walk into the room, it's this type of talk. It's not, man, what'd you eat for dinner last night? Dude, my girlfriend, she cheated on me again. Like, nobody wants to talk about that kind of stuff. We want to be talking about this, where we talk about life-changing money, what this opportunity is for us. So, like you said, when we walk in and people are playing ping pong or they're shooting the basketball or they're just sitting there catching up from the day before talking about the fun stuff, that's always a red flag because the successful people in this company are the ones who, when they walk in that room, it's time to get better. And, like you said, they'll be role playing in the mirrors in the bathroom. They'll pull somebody to the side and be role playing in one of the side rooms.
Walking around with the script in their hand, saying it out loud.
Reviewing script. When we walk into the office, like out of the closer meeting, when we see the knockers doing that kind of stuff, that's when people are getting paid every day. So if you're listening to this, my big advice is as you walk into that office, when you cross that threshold, make yourself understand that it's game time. It's time to start getting better,
Yep, 100%. Super crucial because that's where you're going to see the results for long term.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so let's go over, and we kind of went over this last time, but leaving the meeting, right? What is the number one thing? The best place to find hood is where?
In the parking lot.
In the parking lot, yeah. Right? If the meeting's wrapped up, right? Everybody wraps up the meeting and you're scraggling around, you know what I mean? Bullshitting about where you're going to grab lunch, right? You're wasting time.
Yeah.
And
in the morning time is actually some of the best time to knock if you get there early enough.
Yep.
If you wait until 11, 12 o'clock, you're way behind. It's hard.
Yep.
People already started their day. But if you can get out there at 9:30, 10 o'clock and get straight to the doors and have some quick action, you're catching people as they're leaving. You're catching people whenever they're like, all right, day's getting started. Let's get this rolling, in better mindsets as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
and it's super crucial, leaving immediately. And another thing before we go into this, right? We're talking about tips and tricks that we did as door knocker. I knew where I was going, what hood I was going to the night before the meeting.
Let's talk about that. So, like for me, I would go on Zillow, and, we all use Zillow to pick out our hood, and I would find homes that would, like I'd pull up the picture, and I would literally drop my good hood neighborhood on that house because I was like, that is a sale. I would do that every single time, and it starts with a manifestation of, like, that is going to be my house. When I get in that neighborhood, that's going to be the first person I talk to. Like, I know it's a sale. But along with that, it's preparation. I knew where I was going the night before.
Yep.
And my good hood pins were there, because I don't want to wake up and be like, oh, so-and-so's going to my hood. It's the hungry dog eats. So
yep. And that's why it's super important that when the meeting ends, boom.
It's a race.
It's a race to hood. first come, first serve. You know what I mean? A good hood. I always told whenever I was the marketer in Austin, man, you can't go drop 5 good hood pins and claim your spot. That's not how this game works,
Nope.
right?
Who's
But
knocking?
the psychology aspect of selecting your hood the night before is like you said. This is my sale. Right? So when you already chose that hood because you sold yourself on there as a sale in that neighborhood, so when you get in there, do not allow yourself to leave until you find that sale or knock everything in that hood.
Yep, hit your follow-ups and, go through, stay in that neighborhood.
Stay in the neighborhood.
True testimony.
Don't hood hop.
A true testimony is where I've set a good neighborhood pin. And whenever at the time, Dylan was my knocking partner, I think. And somebody came through and went into they didn't have a buddy partner. So they came into the neighborhood and where my good hood pin was at, they started on that house, and then set that appointment and it closed for $33,000. And I'll never forget it to this day because that's the type of anger that I would get because I would manifest like I know that's a sale. I'd go through and I'd do all the work to find it. And then you got people that would come in afterwards, But again, it comes back to hunger, Call that person. Tell them, like, I've already got this,
Yep.
It's the hungry dog eats.
The hungry dog eats 100%. So make sure, I think that's very crucial, though. Don't wait till the day of to find your hood. You need to be prepared the night before, right, to know exactly where you're going. But let's talk about that. Okay, meeting ends, right? Boom. The best place to find hood is in the parking lot. Everybody leave immediately, right? You should already know where you're going. And get in your car. That's the first step.
Getting in your car and driving. Just go ahead and get it ready. Get in the car, drive. And then for me personally, I feel like it's most beneficial to listen to that book or that podcast on the way to hood. And the reason is because it's like sales mindset. Proximity is power. Who you surround yourself with is who you're going to become. I would listen to Grant Cardone every day because he's got a billionaire mindset, right? He's going out on in any aspect, he's selling, sell or be sold. And so I'll listen as a knocker. I listen to Sell or Be Sold, 7 times as a knocker, 2 times as a closer, but 7 times on repeat because every day on hood I would listen to that same book, and I would just when I finish it, I'd restart it because the reason that mindset of sell or be sold. I'd have an old lady that's oh, not right now, and my mindset is sell or be sold. Is it not right now, or is this perfect timing for you? Right, but you're only going to be in that mindset because the proximity of what you put in, like what you're listening to on the way to work.
I agree, and I have a different thing that I did on the way to hood. I still listen to the book, but whenever I got closer to hood, I did have a different take. But before that, one thing that I always would not allow myself to do would be stop at the gas station before morning shift.
Yeah, you can't.
Because you just went, you got this fire-ass meeting, right? You're feeling good, right? You've been listening to your book, and then you want to stop at the store and go hee-haw around and get you a Coke or even if it's a water or Gatorade, right? But you've completely disengaged yourself on the task at hand because you had to worry about this.
Yep, side
right?
quest.
Side quest, right? Don't do that. Take care. I literally tell people, and this ain't no bullshit. Whenever I qualified, I kept an ice chest in the back of my car with waters that I stacked up the night before, having some snacks in there. My lunch, I made my own. I had sandwiches that Journey made for me. And that way, I never went to the gas station.
Yep.
I ate lunch in hood.
Yep.
Wouldn't even. And there used to be. I'll go into more things that I didn't allow myself to do, but it's so important that you don't get sidetracked going to the gas station trying to find you a protein bar. No, have all that prepared when you leave the meeting. Straight to your good hood pin that you found the night before, right? And as soon as you get there, that leads into the next point that you said on the last time is when you get there, what's the first thing we should be doing?
Jump out of that car, and the reason for that too. And knockers who have been in this situation, y'all know what I'm talking about. You'll sit in your car. And that's when the anxiety starts rolling. You're sitting in your car, and that's why you're like, man, I didn't get an energy drink. I should probably go grab me an energy. You start thinking of excuses to get on the doors, right? And so from Grant Cardone, he's the guy we talk about all the time. He says that I lost it. What's my saying? Depression and anxiety come from a lack of activity. And so you think about that in the sense of you're a knocker, you drive up to hood, and you're sitting in your car, and now you're just avoiding the action. You're avoiding the action of like, all right, get out of the car, walk to the door. So my trigger every single time, I'd pull up to hood, I can feel it in my stomach starting to, getting them nerves, right? Now, as soon as I park, I have to jump out of the car and start walking. And usually, like, the funny part is I won't walk to a door. I'll start walking a couple laps. I'll walk like one circle around back to my car, and then I'm like, all right, let's hit it. And then I'll go hit that door. And once I start, it's tunnel vision until I'm damn near finished with the neighborhood. Like, I'll finish street by street, and it's just tunnel vision of working. So there's no distraction. It's like whenever I'm so tunnel vision that I'm like, from there, like when I'm walking down the sidewalk, I'll look at the house and I'll take it from when I cross the threshold of their driveway. From there, it's lights, camera, action. I'm so invested in this one homeowner. Like, I believe that I literally got out of my car to talk to this person. And that the meaning that comes behind all that is what allows me to be a good salesman on the door.
Yep, 100%. And then also, right, when you go and make your lap and you get on the doors, disengaging yourself from everything, right? Mm-hmm. One big thing that I see all the time is people are actually, I was listening to C-Row, I can't remember how long ago, and I was listening to it, and I heard the TikToks in the background of the C-Row.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm like, you wonder why you ain't making no money.
Yeah, distracted.
Where your mindset goes, your energy flows, Mm-hmm. So if you were walking around and every door you're scrolling and looking at something, no. Put that phone on Do Not Disturb. Mm-hmm. It's none of your business if these other people are setting appointments. To be honest with you, I had my notifications off.
Yeah. I had to cuss my mom out. Like, just think about that. My mom called me. And, this is that we're open here. So, like, my mom and dad were going through a divorce. And she called me as I'm knocking doors in Utah, meaning Colorado. And she's like, your daddy did this and this and this. And I had to tell her, like, Mom, you can't call me anymore. I was like, if you call me and you bring negative energy into my mindset, I won't answer the phone anymore. And it was a lot more vulgar than that, to be honest with you. But long story short, I got my point across, and I had to put up a wall. If I'm out in the doors knocking, it's got to be tunnel vision. You can't allow the distractions to come in, whether it be family, friends, TikTok, Snapchat, and you got to turn those notifications off because it will distract you from your purpose of being out there.
And another thing is that we obviously we have the structure of the 5-hour day, 2 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the evening. If you're getting on the doors and you're thinking about that, lost.
Yeah.
Right?
You got to look at the neighborhood.
Then you're just working a job. Mm-hmm. You're just clocking in, clocking out. Forget about the hours. You just go out there and focus on producing, and that's how you actually produce consistently.
Yeah, the way in a morning session, I would always say, all right, I'm going to finish this whole hood. Like I would pretty much have like a start and finish or a way that I could finish back to to my car. And in a whole morning session, it's not about convo count or hours. It was big enough where I'm not going home until this whole hood is knocked. And then in the evening time, I can go catch re-knocks, or bounce if I need to. But that just comes with the preparation for it.
Right. And another thing that I've always done whenever I was knocking was, like I said a second ago, I brought an ice chest with, I used to have multiple rags because I was knocking in the midst of the summer.
August,
I qualified July and August after I missed it the month before. But I had a freaking like sweat rags and stuff like that. I was leaving my car, and I'd go back. I'd change my sweat rags out and stuff like that. But the point of me saying this is, I never left hood, and then whenever I was ready to get some lunch, I wouldn't allow myself to sit in my car.
Yeah.
If I wanted to grab me a snack or get me a water bottle, right, I would sit on the curb next to my car. I'd sit on my trunk, but I would not allow myself to sit in that car.
Yeah, turn the AC on.
Turn that AC on because I knew as soon as I did that, I'm screwed, right? Because if I stay in the zone, right, and don't get distracted by sitting in that AC, getting comfortable. Right, the easy route, essentially, right. If by me doing that, it kept me engaged in my task at hand. Ultimately,
it's kind of a principle in life. It's kind of like going on a hike. Like being in Utah, Colorado, we hike now, but we didn't in Louisiana. But on a hike, it's easier to just keep going at a slower pace. Just continue that movement. Just stay moving rather than walk for an hour or two. Let's sit down, unpack the hammock. Let's have a picnic. All right, now let's pick it all up, and then we'll keep walking again. The idea is it's the momentum that's carrying there. And then also on that same aspect is the speed between doors. The speed of your brake. If you sit in your car in your AC, Do you think you're going to sit in your car longer than you would if you sat on the tailgate of your truck? You know, like you're going to sit in that car longer because it feels good, right? And so it's just that momentum. You lose all that momentum, whereas it's short, quick break. Same thing of going to the bathroom. Keep water bottles in your car if you're a dude. You know, that's what I did. You know, don't be bad and like litter them, throw them away and be good. I've seen people out there in previous companies that have, you know, they'll just use the bottle and throw it on the side, which is disgusting. You shouldn't do that. But it's time efficiency. You lose so much momentum if you're 1 hour into a session and you're like, oh, I got to pee. Let me go get in my car, drive to the gas station, then I'm going to come back. You know, you're just setting yourself up for failure. Yep. So whereas on the alternative, you can just go figure out how to get it done quick and right back to the doors.
Yep.
And it's that time between the doors too. And if you're one of those knockers who, you know, fiddle farts and kind of just takes their time walking door to door, usually there's a direct correlation with how fast you succeed. You know, there should be like, oh, no, not interested. Thanks so much. Have a good day. And you should be almost down the driveway, almost up the driveway of the next person. There should be no time between.
Yep. Not debating back and forth.
Yeah. No.
Wasting your time. Always don't put your energy into people that don't want to talk to you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Right? And that comes from, you know, good nonverbal paraverbals, right? And people will want to talk to you, I promise, you know.
But it also comes with moving with a sense of purpose. When when they open the door and they're like, oh, this guy's got something for me, you know, that they can see that on you. You know, that's why you're able to get further into your pitch.
All right, let's go through. All right, so we're talking about break a little bit, lunch, you know. Also, another tip for, you know, during break is don't go get you a freaking big old steak with a bowl of mashed potatoes and some macaroni and cheese.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's just dumb.
Yeah, Buffalo Wild Wings, 40 wings or something like that.
You know, get something light, healthy, you know what I mean? Your body's a machine. You just have to fuel it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So don't go load up on 1,000 carbs, and that way you feel sluggish like a turtle when you get back out there in the streets, right? Yeah. That's why I always ate out in Hood. It was either a quick snack, and then boom, I'm right on the doors, you know? Actually, my biggest deal that I've ever knocked as a knocker was a 65. I think you closed it. It was like a $65,000 deal, and I set it at like 2:20, 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And the dude was, I was at my car, and it was like one of the first or second houses I was knocking with Dustin Chase on. And because he was with me on my second qualifying month, and he qualified his first month on the job because he was my knocking partner every day, and we did this every single day, right? And the thing is that we were so much in the zone, but it just shows you, like, dude, it was 2:30 in the evening, and I was like, all right, I'm going to give me another 10, 15 combos. Boom, right? Set a $65,000 same-day close, you know? And the dude was about to leave. And if I wouldn't have got out, you know what I mean? People always say the harder you work, the luckier you get. And that's facts. You know what I mean? If I wouldn't have been doing more, right, not chasing my minimum hours, my minimum convos, and I was just out there focusing on production, right? How can I use my time the most efficient way? If I wasn't doing that, I would have never got that sale.
Yeah, and it's not about the sale. It's about going out there and seeing something. You know, it's not about hours or anything like that. It's seeing productivity come.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, the hungry dog
Well, the thing is that we don't get paid to knock doors. We get paid to make sales.
Yep, and if you go out there and just knock doors, you ain't getting paid.
Yeah.
That's the bad part.
Exactly. It's kind of like, you know, if you want to work hard, you know, you can go work in construction. They'll hand you a shovel, and they'll tell you to dig a ditch, and you just keep on digging.
Dig it as hard as you want. Big scoops.
You know? So be productive when you're out there and master your time. But let's go into evening shift, right? Some tips and tricks. You go into evening shift. What are some tips and tricks that you have on that?
So going into an evening session, I'm a firm believer of it's more important to be dialed and in that right mindset in the evening session because you're going to have so much more conversation.
Prime time.
Yeah, so with having conversations, it's kind of the same topic of in your evening session, I usually like to go back. I like to start my evening session either finishing off what I didn't finish before or something that I can come back to the morning sesh a little bit later in that. So hitting follow-ups and things of that nature. So I like to stay somewhat in the same area, but on that same topic, I'm going to go back and I'm going to double knock, triple knock, try and have those conversations and kind of what you were saying earlier about like keeping up with the hours. I'm not necessarily going to keep up with the combo count or the hours that I'm working. I'm going to make sure that I have good momentum so that for me, knocking is as long as you want to knock. I knew that I wanted to become a closer, and if I just put massive action in a short period of time, that I'd get to closer faster. So for me, it's not about knocking until 7 o'clock. It's knocking until I finish the neighborhoods or until the lights start coming on, staying out there and working harder. In this industry, more opportunity is how you get paid, because we have the same script, we have the same trainings, everything's the same. The only difference is the person that's going to give themselves more opportunity to be able to see the success. Mm-hmm. So biggest tip at all is, if your morning session is completely botched, the second session is like a brand new day. If you grab you a lunch, you get a reset, you go out there, treat the evening session stronger than you do your morning sessions.
Me personally, one of my big things was I wouldn't allow myself to go into evening session with like less than 30 convos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's easy to get 30 convos in an evening session. For me, I used to always say 20 in the morning.
20 in the morning.
Because if you at 20 in the morning, then it's super easy to get 30 in the afternoon. Yeah. But it's the days that you're at like 10 combos in a morning sesh and you go take lunch, that's the days that it's hard to get your combos.
But at the same time, like my motto was, if I do minimums, I get minimums. You know what I mean? So if I go out there and I'm just like 20 and 30, I'm doing the minimum, and I'm not that person. Like I beat that in my head. Mm-hmm. That's why I used to break my day up into 4 quarters, 15, 15, 15, 15, which at the end of the day, I would end at 60 minimum convos, right? Yeah. But I think it's super crucial. Me personally, my advice would be is don't let your evening shift start with less than 30 combos, because the last thing that you need to be thinking about in the evening is combos. Yeah. Because if you're thinking about combos in the evening session, what you think you're going to come back with?
That's all you stack.
You're just going to come back with a bunch of combos. No money. Yep. You know what I mean? You should have stayed at the house. So
on that topic too, though, like there were times in like my prime of knocking where there were some days where I wouldn't even get to 50, 60 combos, but I would have 6 to 8 sets. Yep. Right? So it's like another thing is if you're looking and keeping up with the combos themselves, then that's all you're going to have. But if you go out there and you're intentional on every single homeowner, treat every opportunity as like, this is my opportunity to impact somebody's life, that's where you're going to start setting more appointments. And if you're setting more appointments, 6 to 8 appointments, we're talking about 8 to 10 minutes of a conversation per person. So now you may not reach 50 conversations in a day, but the value that's been delivered to the 45 that you did talk to is going to be so much more impactful. You'll see better results. Yeah. So, so it kind of goes out there. It's a double-edged sword. You want to work fast, but you should never be chasing combos. You should never be watching the clock. It comes with the intention behind it. For me, it was more like I want, if they open the door, I have to give them 100% of what I'm trying to deliver.
Let's talk about that, because we didn't talk about that too much. Talk about, when you turn into the driveway thought process at that point.
Yeah. So for me as a knocker, get out. Whenever I'm walking down the driveway, briskly going down the sidewalk, I'll turn into the driveway, and when I step on their driveway, the way that I treat it is like lights, camera, action. It's 2026. Every home in the world has a camera somewhere. So I look at it as like.
And on top of that, a lot of homeowners that have cameras, including myself,
and me,
right, and you, guess what I'm getting as soon as my camera fucking detects somebody?
Motion detected.
Motion detected, right? So my first instinct on my cameras is I'm looking at them. Who's in my house, right? So don't think that these people aren't watching you.
Yep, and you have to take that. And if you're on your phone walking up and it looks like you're a little door-to-door solicitor, guess what we do? We ain't coming to the door, But again, if you change your perspective, it's like, hey, I'm coming for this home. Walk in the driveway, motion detected. Just assume every house is getting that alert. As you're walking up, I'm looking at their windows. I'm like, oh my gosh, please be home. Please come talk to me. This is going to be life-changing. I can already picture the sign in the yard. Like I'm manifesting on the walk.
Selling yourself on why you can sell them on the advertising.
Exactly. So whenever they come out, they're like, oh, we just moved in. It's not a good time. I'm like, no. You are going to love this. I'm telling you, this is meant to be for us to have this conversation, right? It's sell or be sold. If a homeowner sees that I'm willing to turn away and walk away without any passion, then they look at me as a solicitor, right? But if there's a difference, because I treat it like it's my business. Treat it like by me putting my business's yard sign in your yard, we're both going to have so much value from this experience, right?
Yep.
So, but it's mindset. So I always tell people, treat it like the cameras are on you and they're going to record everything that you say. And another trick that I like to use is I like to believe to myself that the homeowner has the script. It's kind of like lights, camera, action is what I said earlier. I like to have the idea that I'm auditioning for the marketing coordinator. And the director who wrote this script is in that house. And based on how I deliver it is whether or not I get the lead role or just a participation trophy. Where I just get to be in the play.
Right.
So my mindset is that whenever I'm up there and I'm like, hey, how are you doing? I'm big energy. I'm acting out the role. I'm acting out the hook. I'm acting out like the excitement, the energy savings, everything I can, so that the homeowner, quote, quote, director, can hire me on as the lead role.
Right.
So, but if you go through and you treat, because the idea is that what's successful in business is consistency. And if you can master our pitch, because the pitch doesn't change, and you can deliver it the same exact way every single time, regardless of who answers the door, then you build the mindset of how to overcome every objection. When they hit you with, oh, you got a card, you know how to handle it. Oh, I got to talk to my spouse, you know how to handle it. Oh, this sounds great. It's too expensive, though. You know how to handle it. But that comes from the consistency that we hold.
Yep. And the biggest thing is that the pitch doesn't start when the door opens.
Oh, no.
The pitch starts as soon as you get out of that car and hood, right? When you're walking up that driveway, right, the cameras are on you. How many homes do you walk up to and they have that little peephole right there? That me personally, I was always smiling. Like, I know they're looking through that little peephole looking at me, seeing what am I doing? Do I have bad posture with my head down?
Yep.
Or am I like, oh, man, please come talk to me?
I'm almost like a little crazy. I'll be like looking in their windows.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make eye
waving.
contact. Yeah, I've literally set an appointment from a second floor, second story, because for me, I'm looking at all the windows and I'm like, oh, please come talk to me. Yep. Please be home. And I'll make eye contact with a homeowner on a second floor. And she'll wave me off. And I'm like, no, please come talk to me. She'll open up the door, open up the window, and I did a whole pitch through the window and set that appointment for a 7:30 same day.
Yep.
But it's intention. If I would have been,
you set that appointment.
Yeah, I know you were with me.
Yeah.
And but like the idea is that if I would have been a guy who's talking to the trainee, like I'm sitting out there and we just bullshit and just having a good talk, we would have never seen the homeowner there.
Or if you would have changed your pick and pitch just for that homeowner because she wasn't at the door. And you're like, oh, yeah, we're just running a retail campaign. And you give some nonchalant, never again.
Nope.
Right? Rather than, no, please come talk to me. I have something super important to tell you.
Yeah. That's what works. It works for
Sell
sure.
It, be sold, essentially. That's all it comes down to. So, and then also, I want to kind of wrap this up. But in the evening shift, dude, right, the biggest thing is that we're seeking conversation every single door. If you're knocking this door and somebody pulls into their house across the street, go talk to them. Make it a non-negotiable because
beeline.
Beeline.
Don't go finish your street and then come back and talk to them because they've already watched you knock every door in the neighborhood. Go straight towards that homeowner.
Yep.
Play it off and be like, oh, I tried to come talk to you and you weren't home. This is God sent. You just pulled in.
Yep.
Play it off as like, I specifically came to talk to you.
Yep.
And oh my goodness, serendipitous, you're here now.
Yep.
And that's where you're going to get further in those conversations.
Yep. So, hey, I hope that all these tips and tricks helped you on the door knocking side of things. We got some more episodes that's going to be dropping. Make sure to stay tuned. Also, drop a comment below on what you loved about the podcast. So, like and subscribe to the channels as always, and we'll catch you guys next time.